This is the Innova Engineering Charts, Reports and Drilling Data tutorial. In this video, we're going to discuss the Charts interface and how it can be used to customize your charts, the Reports Manager and how it can be used to customize reports, and the Drilling Data tab, which we can use to display additional information on our charts and also modify some of our input parameters. Before I start, I'm going to point out some other sources of information on this topic. First is the help file, which you can access by going to Help and Help. In the help file, the relevant pages for this video are going to be the Charts Results page, the Drilling Parameters tab page, the File menu section, the Options menu section, and the Tools menu section. As well as the help file, we also have some short online tutorial videos which can act as refreshers for this video. So if you go to the playlist section and choose the Innova Getting Started playlist, there are 3 videos at the top of the playlist that cover reports, drilling data, and charts. For this example, I'm going to be using Complete Example Project 3, which you can access by going to File and Open. Navigate to your Innova Engineering install directory, open up the Example Projects folder, and select Example Project 3. Before I can look at my charts, I need to populate them with some results, so I'm going to run the calculation. And now that we've run the calculation and we've got some results, we can now look at our charts. All of the hydraulics results charts and the torque and drag results charts, as well as the section view plot and the plan view plot, all have the same interface and can be customized in exactly the same way. For this example, I'm going to open up my hook loads chart. There are 2 ways to customize the charts. You can customize them using the options in the toolbar at the top of each chart, and you can also right-click on a chart to bring up another menu with some additional options. I'm going to start by running through each of the options in the toolbar. We also have a File menu and an Edit menu at the top of the window, but all of the options in here are just another way of accessing the options in the toolbar, so I'm not going to worry about them. Our first 2 options are the Save Chart Template and the Open Chart Template option. So after I've gone through all of my customization options and I've set up my chart how I like it, I can save those settings by clicking on Save Chart Template. This will let me save my settings as a .ctf file. And then when I come to a new project, instead of having to set up my chart manually, I can just go to Open Template, select the template that I want, click on Open, and that will load in all of my settings for me. Next is the Print Chart to PDF button. So this will let you print off your chart. It doesn't have to be to PDF. You can send it to a standard printer as well if you want. Next, we've got the Show Screen Reader. So this just brings up a little box in the top left of your chart. And if you hover over your chart, it will read off your x-axis and y-axis values for you. Next is the Chart Properties option. So you can open this option by either clicking on this button here, or you can open it by double-clicking anywhere in your chart. And this will bring up your chart customization options. So the customization window is broken up into 7 tabs. First is the General tab, and this will let me edit things like my titles. So I can change my main title in this top box, I can add a subtitle underneath it if I want to. I can change the style of my border. I can change the viewing style, which is a way of forcing my chart into black and white if I need it to be. I can change the size of my fonts. And I can change which grid lines I want to display on the chart. Next, we have the Plot tab. So this lets us change how our lines are plotted. So for example, I could change it from a line to a point, and this will plot my lines as points. The Subsets tab does not actually do anything in these charts. Next is the Axes tab. So this lets you change the minimum and maximum values for your y-axis and your x-axis. And you can also change them from linear axes to logarithmic axes. Next is the Font tab. So this will let you change your font settings for your main title, your subtitle, and your subset point and axis labels. So for example, I can change the settings for my main title. Next is the Color tab. This will let you change the color of your text and your chart background. So desk foreground will change the color of your text. Desk background will let you change the color of the area around your chart. Graph foreground will let you change the color of your grid lines. And graph background will let you change the background color of the chart itself. And finally is the Style tab. This is where you can customize the color and the style of the lines on your chart. Next is the Export Chart Image option. This option allows you to export your chart out of Engineering either as an image or as a text data file. So you've got three methods of doing this: clipboard, file, or printer. If I select the first option, clipboard, and then click on export, this will copy an image of my chart to my clipboard, and then I can paste it into another document. I can also choose printer, and when I click on this option, I get some extra options at the bottom which let me decide how big I want the image to be on the page, and then I can just click on print, and that will take me to my printer window. And the third option is file. So at the top, I can choose between 5 different image formats or a text format. If I pick an image format and then click on the Browse button, I can set the name and location of my image file and click on Save. And then when I click on Export, it'll create that image file in the location that I set. Or I can click on text/data, hit Browse again, and you can see the file format has changed to a .dat file. Let's give it a name, click on Save, and then click on Export, and this will open up my data file export window. On the left here, I can choose which of my series I want to export. Up here, I can choose whether or not I want to include the labels with my series. Down here, I can choose whether or not I want my text file to be in the form of a list or a table, and if I want it to be tab delimited or color delimited. And then at the bottom, I can choose my precision for my data values. And then when I hit export, it will create a text.dat file with that information in. The next three options are all for adding or editing labels on the chart. So the first one lets me add in a label. If I click on that and then click somewhere on my chart, I'll get a window where I can enter some text. That will add my label to the chart, and if I left click and drag, I can move it around. The next button lets me toggle my data labels on and off. So if I click on this, and if I click it again, it'll toggle back on. And the third button lets me edit my data labels. So clicking on this will bring up a new window. And in the table, I can edit the position of my data labels, and I can also edit the text in my labels. And down here, I also have some extra customization options. So for individual labels, I can pick whether or not they show on the chart. I can pick whether or not they are bold or italic. I can change the font size of my label. Using this drop-down box, I can change the color for my label. And then I can also turn on tether lines for my labels. So if I turn this on and hit OK, you see that my label has changed to the new text that I set for it. And if I drag it now, you can see that it has a tether line. And I can drag my text around, and I can also drag the other end of the tether line to point it to wherever I want to on the chart. The next option is Show BHA Component Depths. This option functions differently depending on whether or not you're looking at a normal chart or a snapshot chart. In a normal chart like this one, when I click on this button, it'll bring up this table, which you can left click on and drag around. And this table will detail the components in your drill string, your well geometry, and your mud weight. If, however, I'm in a snapshot chart, like this off-bottom tensions chart, when I click on the Show BHA Component Depth button, this will draw lines on my chart to show the position of the different BHA components. If we zoom in, we can see the different heights for our components in the well bore when the bit is down at the bottom of the hole. Next, we have the Show Casing button. When I click on this button, it toggles on and off lines on my chart that corresponds to what I've entered into the well geometry section in the drill string, well geometry, and fluids tab. And where the lines are drawn on the chart depend on the measured depth entered for them in the well geometry section. So in this example, I had 3 entries in my well geometry. I had my 9 5/8 casing set just below 9,000 feet. I had my 8 7/8 open hole, which finished just above 10,000 feet. And then I've got my 8.5 inch section down at TD. Next is the Add Series option. The Add Series option lets you add lines to the chart that aren't part of the chart's default set of series. I can add lines from 4 different sources. I can add them from my drilling data, from my pump information, from my pressure gradients tool, and from my pipe data tool. I'll come back to the Add Series option after I've covered the drilling data tab, and we've got some data that we can display on the chart. Next is the Show Hide Series option. This allows me to choose which series I want displayed on my chart. You have all of the default series available to toggle on and off, but if you add any series using the Add Series option, these will also be displayed here so that you can toggle them on and off if you need to. So just as an example, I'm going to click on the Turn On All option, and that will turn back on the sliding lines that I had disabled earlier. And there we go, those are the sliding lines added back in. Next is the Chart Reset option. This option will reset your chart back to the default settings. So if you make a big mess of things, you can just click on this button and it will reset the chart back to the default. Next is View Data Table. So clicking on this button will open up the data table window for this chart. And this displays all of the data points for all of the series that you currently have plotted on your chart. And you can export this table by going up to File and Export. And this will allow you to save your table either as a text file or as an Excel file. The next option is Show and Hide Grid Lines. So clicking on this will just toggle your grid lines on and off. The next item, the buckling analyzer, is only available if you are looking at a on-bottom or off-bottom tension chart. So if we quickly switch to one of those. So if on your off-bottom or on-bottom tension chart, some of your lines are crossing below your sinusoidal or helical buckling limit lines, you can click on the buckling analyzer to get a bit more information. In the columns at the top, you'll have your rotating off-bottom, your tensile limit, and then any other lines that have crossed over the sinusoidal or the helical buckling limit lines. And then down the left, you have your helical buckle length and your sine buckle length values. This will give you the total length of components in your drill string that are experiencing buckling. Next, you've got your helical index and your sinusoidal index, and these are both a unitless value that represent how severe the buckling is. So 0 means no buckling, and a high number means severe buckling. Then you've got your depth, which is just your calculation depth. And then you've got your weight on bit value that you entered into your engineering parameters. Next, you have the ton-mile calculator, and this is only available if you were looking in the driller's hook loads chart. The ton-mile calculator lets you use your hook load results to calculate the ton miles on your drill works. So for tripping data, I can pick either the rotating off bottom line or one of my slack off lines. And my trip out data, I can choose again either rotating off bottom or one of my pickup lines. Then I can enter in the depth that I'm interested in, and the ton mile calculator will use the lines that I've picked to calculate the ton miles for a round trip down to the depth that I've entered and then back up to surface. Next is the Show Hide Series Labels button. So clicking this will toggle on and off a set of labels for each of my series, and these labels will give some information relevant to the line that they're referencing. So in this case, my labels show the friction factor for each of their lines. You can drag these labels around by left-clicking on them and then dragging the mouse. And if you have tether lines turned on in the Edit Data Labels option, you'll also have a tether line pointing to your series. And then the last option is the Shade Buckling option. So if your chart has a buckling line, like this one does, you can click on this option to toggle whether or not the chart shades in under the buckling line. As well as the toolbar, we also have the context menu. You can access the context menu by right-clicking anywhere in the chart area. The context menu gives you another way of accessing your customization dialog or your export dialog. Not all charts in engineering will have access to the menus or the toolbar at the top of them, but you should be able to right-click on all of them, and then you'll still be able to get to your customization dialog, and you'll still be able to export them. As well as the customization and the export dialogs, we have a few other options. Most of these are just shortcuts to options that are already in the customization dialog, but there are a few that are unique to the context menu. So for example, the legend style options let you customize your legend. So you can choose where it displays. By default, it'll be on the right, but you can move it, say, up the top, or you can hide it completely. There are also some extra options for your grid lines, so you can choose a different style for your grid lines if you want to. The Mark Data Points option will mark all of your actual data points as little black squares on your chart. And then you have the Undo Zoom option. So to zoom into any of these charts, you just want to left-click and then hold down as you drag a box, and then engineering will zoom into your selection. And then to undo the zoom and go back to your default view, you just right-click anywhere in the chart and select Undo Zoom. Lastly, there's the Maximize option. So clicking on this will just remove all of your toolbars and stuff and maximize the image of the chart to fill up your screen. And then you can get back to your chart by just clicking up in the top left-hand corner. That covers all the customization options for the results charts. Surveys that have been entered into the Surveys tab can also be displayed on charts using the Plots menu. In the Plots menu, we have three options: the Section View chart, the Plan View chart, and the 3D View chart. The Section View and the Plan View charts both work in exactly the same way as the results charts. As an example, I'll open up the Section View chart. By default, all three survey tables are displayed on the chart. If you want to disable some of them, just go to the Show Hide Series button and then turn off the ones that you don't want. The vertical section for the Section View chart is displayed down at the bottom below the x-axis, and this can be changed back in the Surveys tab in the vertical section. The 3D view plot works differently to the other charts. In the 3D view chart, you zoom in and out using your mouse wheel. You can rotate the chart by left-clicking and dragging with your mouse. And then you can move the chart up and down or left and right by holding down Shift and then left-clicking and dragging with your mouse. There are a lot fewer customization options in the 3D view, and you access them by right-clicking to bring up the context menu. In the context menu for the 3D view, you don't have a customization option, but you do still have the export dialog, so that you can print off your image of the 3D view, or send it to the clipboard, or save it as a file. In the context menu, you can set the 3D chart to rotate by clicking on Rotation Animation, and you can change the speed of this rotation using your rotation increment. You also have a few customization options, so you can change between color or monochrome. You can change the font size. You can choose whether or not to display a legend. And you can choose which parts of the grid you want to display or hide. That covers all of the customization options for the 3D chart. In the options menu, we can change the default color and line style on the charts. So if we go to options and default chart formatting and customize colors and line styles, this will open up the chart defaults dialog. In the chart defaults dialog, we can change the default colors for all of the lines on our charts. And we can also change the default line styles, which are used to compare results when you have multiple inputs, such as different flow rates or different friction factors. So for example, I'll change my default color on my pump pressure chart to red, and I'll change all of my line styles to medium dot. Then I hit apply, go to my pump pressure chart, and you can see that the default color for my results is changed to red, and the default line style has changed to medium dot for all the lines. The colors and line styles that you choose in the chart defaults dialog will only apply if you have the other two options turned on. So that's the auto chart colors option and the auto chart line styles option. When these are set to yes, the program will use whatever you set up in the chart defaults dialog. But if you set these to no, then the chart will use random colors and random line styles. Next, we'll take a look at the drilling data tab. The Drilling Data tab is where you can add in results from an external source, such as another simulation or real data from the rig. Once data has been entered into this table, you can then plot it on your results charts, which allows you to compare the data against the results that you've generated in the engineering simulation. In the table, we've got columns for various different types of drilling data. If you're not using all these columns, then you can declutter the table by removing them, and you can do this in the options menu. Go up to options and then show hide parameter columns, and you can toggle off the columns that you don't want. As an example, I've got data for pumps on, pickup, rotating and slack off weights. So I will skip the video ahead to where I've deselected all the columns apart from those three weights and the measured depth. So now we've just got these three columns. The drilling data tab is copy and paste friendly, so if you have your data in a table form, such as an Excel spreadsheet, then you can just copy and paste this straight into the tab. The charts in engineering are plotted against measured depth, so any data entered into the drilling data tab needs to be plotted against the measured depth as well, which is why we've still got the measured depth column. Now that I've got this data entered into my drilling data tab, I can plot them on my charts to compare them against my results. So I'm going to go to my torque and drag results and my hook load chart. To add those three columns, I'm going to go up to my Add Series button. And then in the drilling data section, I'm going to find my three columns, and I'm going to click on this button to move them over from the available side to the displayed side. Now that they've been added as series, I can see them on my chart. I can also disable them in the Show Hide Series window if I need to. And if I double click to open up my customization window, I can go to my Style tab and I can change the colors of the drilling data series to whatever I want. The other thing that we can do with the drilling data tab is that we can use it to modify our inputs. So in the options menu, there is an option here called Include Drilling Data in Calculation. When this is turned on, the program will use parameters that you've entered into the drilling data tab as inputs when you run the simulation by going up to the Calculate menu and choosing either hydraulics or torque and drag. However, this only works for specific parameters, and these parameters are your mud weight, your mud rheology values, your ROP, and your RPM. I will use mud weight as an example, so I will reactivate the mud weight column, and I'll just clear out the table. And I'll enter in some mud weight values. So at 10,000 feet, we'll have our mud weight change to 12. Then at 15,000, we'll change to 15, and 20,000, it'll change to 80. So in our drill string tab, our initial mud weight is set at 9.3 ppg. So from surface down until 10,000 feet, it'll be 9.3. Then when we get to 10,000 feet, it'll change to 12. It'll stay at 12 until we get to 15,000, where it'll change to 15. And then finally at 20,000, it'll change to 18. So now that we've entered these parameters into our drilling data tab, we need to run the calculation again. So I'll go to Calculate and Hydraulics. And then I'll go to my hydraulics results and my pump pressure chart. We can see on the pump pressures chart that at 10,000 feet, the standpipe pressure has jumped up because the mud weight has increased to 12 ppg. It continues with 12 ppg until it gets to 15,000, when the mud weight increases again up to 15, and it continues with 15 until we get to the last jump at 20,000, where the mud weight jumps up to 18 ppg, and then it continues down to TD. So that is an example of how you can use the drilling data tab to modify your inputs for your calculation. As well as the drilling data, there are three other categories of series that we can add using the Add Series dialog. There's pump liners, two of which that are currently displayed on the pump presses chart at the moment. And there's pressure gradients, and there's pipe data. You can set up the pump liners by going to Tools and then Pump Data. This will open up the Pump Data dialog. On the left-hand side of the Pump Data dialog, there's a little calculator which lets you calculate your pump output in barrels per stroke. And on the right-hand side, there is a table where you can enter in your pump liners and the pressure rating for those liners. Once you've entered data into this table, it's available for display on your charts using the Add Series dialog. Typically, you would show your pump liners on your pump pressure chart. So at the moment, I've got 7-inch liners and 5.5-inch liners added, but I can go into my Add Series and I can add the other two liners that I entered into the table, the 6.5-inch and the 6-inch. So I can use these lines to see whether or not my pump pressures are going to exceed the rating of my pump liners. The next category is the pressure gradients, and you can generate these by going to Options and then selecting Pressure Gradients. This will open up the Pressure Gradients window. At the bottom of the window, there are the casing seat calculation and well control sections. These aren't relevant to the charts. The relevant parts for the charts are the pore pressure and the fracture pressure tables in the top section. You fill these tables in by entering in a depth and then a pressure reading at that depth, and then the program will draw a line through all the depths that you've entered to generate your pressure gradient. In the top left, you can choose whether or not you want to enter in your depths as a measured depth or a TVD. So if I select TVD here, I can edit the TVD column, and the measured depth column is automatically calculated using the TVD that I've entered and the surveys that I've selected in the surveys drop-down box up here. Likewise, for my pore pressure and my fracture pressure tables, I can choose whether or not I want to enter my pressures as an effective mud weight or a pressure reading, and the program will automatically calculate the one that I don't select using my surveys. Once I've filled in my pore pressure and my fracture pressure tables, the pressure gradients will be displayed on the graph on the right-hand side. And in the graph setup section, I can choose whether the y-axis is displayed with measured depth or TVD, and I can choose if the x-axis displays pressure or effective mud weight. Once I'm happy with my pressure gradients, I can select Save and Exit, and then I can add them to my results charts. So for example, if I go to my surge and swab chart, and I can display my pore pressure and fracture pressure on the chart and see whether or not I'm going to have any issues with surge and swab. The last category is the pipe data, and this is accessed by going to Options and Pipe Tensile Yield Limits, and this will open the pipe data dialog. In here I can enter in yield limit and makeup torque information for any tubulars in my BHA. So for an example, I'm going to enter in my 5-inch drill pipe, which has a tensile yield limit of 712.1 thousand pounds and a makeup torque of 31.6 thousand pounds. And you can add in a comment. So I'm going to enter in my connection type, and I just hit OK to save the data that I've entered. And then I can go into, for example, my torques chart, go to my add series. I can add the makeup torque to my chart. The last thing that we're going to cover is printing out reports for your hydraulics and torque and drag results. In the hydraulics and torque and drag videos, we discussed the hydraulics summary and the torque and drag summary. These are preset reports that allow you to quickly generate a report for your hydraulics or torque and drag results with one click. They contain most of the input and output information that you would normally want in a report, but their formats are fixed and can't be changed. So if you want to create your own custom reports, you need to use the reports generator. And this can be found by going to File and then Print Reports. This opens up the Generate Reports dialog box. At the top, you've got the Print Reports button and then 4 buttons for dealing with your logos. You can add one logo, your primary logo, to an Excel format report or 2 logos to a PDF format report. To add the primary logo, you click on this button and then navigate to your logo image. The image has to be in a .bmp format. This is the only file type that engineering accepts. Once you've found your image, just select it and hit open. That'll add the image to the primary logo area. And then you can click on the Select Secondary Logo button to select a second logo if you've got it. So as an example, I'll pick this one. That'll add the secondary logo to the Logo 2 section down here. And then these last 2 buttons are for clearing your selection for your primary or your secondary logo. Next, you've got your options section. At the top is a drop-down box which lets you pick the file format of your report. So you've got a choice between a PDF report or an Excel report. Below that, you've got the Include Company Logo option. So toggling this off will just disable the logos that you've selected. Next, you've got the Include Cover Page option. This just adds a cover page to the front of your report with your logos, your project name, your project description, and the type of report, so a hydraulics or torque and drag report. Then you've got the option to include a header and a footer to your report. So the header again just includes the name and the description of your project and then the type of report, and the footer would include the date, the page number, and the version of engineering that you use to generate the report. Save report. If you turn this on and then hit print, instead of opening your PDF viewer or Excel, it'll give you the option to just save the report as a file. And then the include time option will add into the footer, along with the date, the time that the report was generated. So include time requires the footer being included as well. Down here you've got some color selections for the headers for your tables in the reports. So the headers in all the tables are colored in, and you can choose the colors here. And then down in the bottom is where you actually choose the input and the output data that you want included in the report. So you've got 5 tabs: hydraulics, which includes all of the information for setting up the hydraulics calculation and all of your results. You've got the same for torque and drag. And you've got BHA analysis and SAG. So these are the inputs and the outputs for the SAG calculator, which is part of the survey correction. You've got non-mag spacing. So this is inputs and outputs for the non-magnetic spacing tool, which is also part of the survey correction. And then lastly, you can just print out your BHA and your surveys by themselves. You can only generate a report for one tab at a time. So whichever tab you have open when you hit the print button, that'll be the type of report that you print. You can't mix and match 2 reports. So if you've got hydraulics results that you want to print and torque and drag results that you want to print, you can't print them all in one report. You have to do your hydraulics selection, print that out, and then select your outputs for torque and drag and print that out in a separate report. In each of these tabs, you'll be able to select the inputs that you used for your calculation. So we've got the BHA overview, which is what you entered into your drawstring section. You've got actual surveys and well-planned surveys, which you entered into your survey tab. And then you've got the engineering parameters that you entered into your engineering parameters tab. And then the other selections are your outputs. So each selection that just has the name of the output is an output table. So for example, we've got the standpipe pressures, the ECDs, and the surgeon swab. These would be the data tables for these results. And then you'll also be able to display the charts for these results. So for example, we've got the standpipe pressure chart or the surgeon swab chart. You could also add in a plan view or a section view. You've also got a hydraulic summary option, which is the same as the hydraulic summary that you can print from the hydraulics results menu, just minus the charts. And then in the torque and drag tab, you've got the same thing. So you've got your BHA overview, you've got your engineering parameters inputs, you've got your surveys inputs, you've got your plan view and your section view, then you've got your results tables, and then you've got your results charts. And just with the hydraulics, you can also include the torque and drag summary from the torque and drag results menu without the charts. So you can create a custom version of your summary by selecting this and then picking whichever charts you want. Up in the options section, we've got the select all and unselect all buttons. So clicking on select all will select every single item in the tab that you have open, and then unselect all will unselect all of them. So I'll create an example report using the hydraulics. I'm going to pick my hydraulics summary, and I'm going to add in every chart that I've got available. And then I'll also add my actual surveys. Up here in the predefined report section, I can save my selection as a template. To do that, I just need to enter in a name into the report name box. So I'll call it example hydraulics, and then I can click on add to save it. Once I've done that, it'll be available from this drop-down box. So the next time I open the reports generator, instead of setting everything up a second time, I can just pick it from the drop-down box. If I want to make any changes to this template, I can. All I have to do is make my changes and click the update button, and that'll save them. And if I want to get rid of a template, I just select it from the drop-down box and then click on the delete button. So now that we've got everything set up the way that we want it, we can print our report by clicking on the print button. Our first page is our cover page, so it's got our logos that we selected, then it's got the project name, the project description, the type of report that's been generated, and this is based on the tab that you had open in the report generator, and then the date and time that the report was generated. Next, we've got the hydraulics summary. At the bottom of the hydraulics summary, we can see the footer. So that gives us the date and time again, the page number, and the version of engineering that was used to generate this report. Then we've got our header. So that's got the two logos that we selected and the name and description of the project again. And then we've got the charts that we selected in the report generator. How a chart looks in the report will be the same as how the chart looked last time you had it open in engineering. So if you want to customize how a chart looks in the report, you need to open that chart up by going to the hydraulics results or the torque and drag results menu, opening that chart up, customizing it however you want, and then just closing the chart, and then the next time you print a report, it will look the same as how the chart looked when you closed it. So for example, the last time we had the pump pressures chart open, it looked like this. So that's how it appears in the report. Then after that, we have got the other charts that we selected in the report generator. And then lastly, we selected the actual surveys in the report generator, so it's printed off a survey report for us as well. That concludes the engineering charts and reports tutorial. We'll now move on to the questions and answers section. After each question, try pausing the video and see if you can answer the question yourself before getting the answer here. Question 1. How do I customize the colors, titles, and axes in my chart? And the answer is, all these options are accessed in the Chart Properties dialog. And you can open the Chart Properties dialog by just double-clicking in the middle of your chart. Question 2. How do I access the raw data used to plot the series in my chart? And the answer is, when you're in the chart, you can click on the View Data Table button on the toolbar, or you can go to View Data Table in the Edit menu. Question 3. How do I save my chart configuration for later? And the answer is, you save your chart as a template. You can do this by going to the File menu and selecting Save Template and saving your configuration as a file. And then later, when you want to apply that template, you can just go to File and Load Template. Question 4. How do I customize how my charts look in my PDF or Excel reports? And the answer is, charts in the reports will mimic how you have configured them in the hydraulics and torque and drag results menus. So to configure a chart in your report, you want to open it up in either your hydraulics or torque and drag results menu, customize it to get it looking how you want it, and then just close the chart and print off the report. and the chart in the report will look the same as how you set it up when you were viewing it in the results menu. Finally, question 5, where should I check if I can't remember what a function in the chart or the report generator does? The best place to look is in the help file. So the chart section will describe all the functions inside the chart. The file menu contains the functions for the report generator. The tools menu covers the pump data, and then the options menu covers the drilling data, the pressure gradients, and the pipe tensile yield limit. Now we can move on to the exercise. For this exercise, you'll need a project with all your inputs already set up. So you can use one of your own projects if you want, or you can use one of the example projects. You can find the example projects in the example projects folder inside your engineering install directory. Once you've opened up a project, run the hydraulics and torque and drag calculations, and then open up one of the charts in the hydraulics or the torque and drag results menu. Once you're viewing a chart, have a play around with the functions in the toolbar, but make sure you cover the 3 points below. So use the chart properties to customize the title, the axes, and the colors of the series in your chart. Use the Show Hide Series tool to remove or add a few series in the chart. And then finally, use the Save Template function to save your changes. Open up the pressure gradients, the pump data, and the pipe tensile yield limit windows, and then enter some data into them. The data doesn't have to be anything realistic. You just want to make sure that you've got something that you can then go back and add to the charts. So once you've done that, open up a chart and use the Add Series window to add them to the chart. So for example, you can put the pressure gradients on your surge and swab chart. You could put your pump data in your pump presses chart, and you could put the makeup torque from the pipe tensile yield limit on your torque charts. Then open up the report generator, add a logo to your report, set up a hydraulics report by picking some options from the hydraulics tab, and then save that report as a template and then print it off. Once you've printed off a hydraulics report, go back into the report generator, do the same for torque and drag, select some options from the torque and drag tab, save that as a second template, and then print off the torque and drag report. If at any point you become stuck, refer back to the video for a refresher. Thanks for watching the Engineering Charts and Reports tutorial. If you need to get in contact with us, you can do so via the email addresses shown here.